Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson today. We're listening to the most insane twist. 911, where do you use system? I need an ambulance first. My mom and my sister and my boyfriend. What happened? It's kind of a long story, and I just need somebody to get her quick, please. You're not hanging up with me. Hold on. You're showing off. You're on camera now, and you're on camera now. All you want to do is just get in my face. Keep going, keep going. Keep going.
She sounded incredibly
No.
frightened and desperately requested an ambulance.
Oh,
It was evident that something terribly serious had unfolded, but the details remained shrouded in confusion. The call isn't just disturbing, but it's also puzzling because it left them with more questions about the situation. To unravel the mystery of that fateful morning,
okay.
let's
Now
delve
you're
straight
all
into
over
the
the,
case's details.
all over
Our story starts
everything.
from the
Come on,
village of Hoffman Estates,
Eddie.
nestled in the heart of
No,
Illinois, where there
move
stood a
over
charming
here.
house on
Yeah,
Bluebonnet Lane.
keep going,
It
keep
was the
going.
cherished home of the Engelhart family. The family was a small but loving one, consisting of Shelley Engelhart, who from a very young age found her heart drawn to the gentle and kind-hearted Alan Engelhart. They set up their new life in the cozy 1000 block of Bluebonnet Lane in Hoffman Estates, where Alan worked tirelessly to provide a better and more comfortable life for his family. In this idyllic setting, another essential member of the family who resided with them was Alan's mother, Marlene Gracek. But the family grew even closer in 1981 when Shelley became a mother, giving birth to a beautiful baby girl with enchanting light brown eyes. They named her Amanda Engelhart. Amanda brought an abundance of love and joy to the Engelhart family. As the first daughter, she was the apple of everyone's eye, but no one could rival the affection showered upon her by her grandmother, Marlene, who took Amanda along on all of her adventures, whether it was a lively party or a simple shopping trip. The Engelhart family's joy continued to grow when, on January 10, 1991, they welcomed a new member to their family, a baby girl, and they named her Laura Engelhart. As she reached her senior year at Conant High School in Hoffman Estates, Laura was a whirlwind of energy, enthusiastically participating in various activities and sports. Her heart held a special place for animals, and her dream was to become a veterinarian. With her cheerful and positive demeanor, she became a beloved figure in both the family and the community. The bond between Laura and her elder sister Amanda was unbreakable. They weren't just sisters, but best friends for each other. And the family's story continued to unfold, as in 1992 they celebrated the arrival of a baby boy, whom they lovingly named Jeff Engelhart. As the only son in the family, and usually got everything he wished for. With this trio of siblings, the family's bond tightened even further. However, in 2006, a turning point arrived in the Engelhart family when their 25-year-old daughter Amanda attended a friend's party and crossed paths with a 23-year-old young man named DeAndre Howard. It was one of those moments where destiny seemed to have a plan. Howard's demeanor and caring nature captured Amanda's heart, and she fell head over heels for him. In 2007, Amanda and Howard took the next step and got engaged. Their love continued to blossom, and soon they welcomed a new member, a baby girl, into the family in 2008, which actually completed the Engelhart family. But Howard, who was struggling with some mental health issues, wasn't able to provide much to his family, so the Engelhart family invited him to live with them under one roof. However, their joy was swiftly quenched on April 17, 2009, when a 911 call made from their home unveiled a harrowing event that had transpired.
911, where do you need assistance? I need an ambulance for somebody just come quick to
What address?
1035.
Okay, 1035 Blue Bottom Hospital.
A lot of from us.
Okay, who's hurt?
My mom and my sister and my boyfriend.
What happened?
It's kind of a long story, and I just need somebody to get her quick, please.
You're not hanging up with me. Hold on. This call was made by Amanda on April 17, 2009, at approximately 6:44 in the morning. She sounded incredibly frightened and desperately requested an ambulance. It was evident that something terribly serious had unfolded, but the details remained shrouded in confusion. The call isn't just disturbing, but it's also puzzling because it left them with more questions about the situation.
Okay, ma'am, I need you to calm down, okay? Tell me exactly what happened. Ma'am, I need you to tell me exactly what happened, okay? Hello, what's happening over there?
It already happened.
What's happening? Hello, what is your name, sir?
I'm losing. I'm really losing.
Where's the girl? Can you put her back on the line? Okay. Who tried to stab you?
He put the knife for me.
Okay.
He stabbed me in the arm.
Hold on a second, all right?
I fought for the knife. He put the knife for me.
Who stabbed you, sir? Sir, who stabbed you?
The voice he just heard was Howard's, and he sounded very weak and drained. If you listen carefully, you can also hear a lot of crying and screaming in the background. This suggests that Howard wasn't just hurt. There was something else distressing happening at that moment.
Hello?
Who stabbed him?
My sister did.
Where's your sister now?
When the police asked Amanda who'd stabbed Howard, she said it was her sister Laura. But what stood out was that she didn't sound very sure or confident when she gave this answer.
Where is she, ma'am? She's on the floor? How did she end up on the floor? Okay, ma'am, I need you to take a deep breath. Tell me exactly how she ended up on the floor. Okay, ma'am, what is your name?
My name is Amanda Engelhardt.
That's the girlfriend I was just talking to?
Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is DeAndre Howard.
DeAndre? Mr. Howard?
Amanda Engelhardt is my fiance. We were getting married this summer.
Okay, and... Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
You will make it. Tell me, you've got help on the way, all right? Listen, was it her sister that stabbed you?
Yeah.
Where is she right now?
We were bad for the night, but I stabbed her. She's not stopping.
She's not, okay, so she stabbed you and you stabbed her?
Yes.
Okay.
Howard explained that he and Laura had a fight over the knife because she was trying to stab him. He managed to get the knife away from her and used it in self-defense, which is what he told the police. But what struck the police as strange was that in the midst of this intense situation with Laura injured and fighting for her life, Howard still found the presence of mind to mention his upcoming wedding. It seemed unusual that he'd bring up such an event at that moment.
Are you and her the only two that are hurt?
No, I'm dead.
Where's her dad?
He's dead.
He's dead?
He's dead.
Okay, hold on a second, sir.
I'm dying.
Okay, Andre, you just stay with me on the phone, all right? What exactly happened? How did this start?
She wrestled me for the knife, stabbed me in my arm.
Uh-huh.
My right bicep, she got a.
Oh, yeah, Andre, you still with me? Andre? Hello, Andre? Andre, you there?
So it wasn't just Howard and Laura involved. Sadly, Laura's father, Alan, was also hurt, and he tragically lost his life. The big question that arises is, who was responsible for Alan's death? Was it really Laura, his own daughter, who caused this harm? At this moment, the police found themselves in a puzzling situation. They weren't sure if Laura had any intent to harm her family, or if there was a different story behind the distressing call.
Hello?
Yeah, Carl, I think we're at the door.
Okay, go to the door. Stay on the phone with me. Go to the door, okay?
Okay.
Do not hang up with me. Go to the door.
Okay. I'm gonna get my door. I have 4 minutes. I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Yep.
Are you with the police right now?
I'm walking to the door.
Okay. Where is this knife at right now?
I don't know.
Okay.
They're not here yet.
They're
They're
not
not here yet.
All right.
I hear them.
What is your name?
Amanda?
Okay, Amanda, look, you're doing real good, all right? What's going on with Andre? Yeah, what's happening with him right now? Why would you just stop talking to me?
He keeps going kind of in and out.
Is he only stabbed in the arm or is he stabbed in the elsewhere?
He's only stabbed in the arm, I think.
Okay, what's going on with the father? Where is he in the house? Where is he in the house? He's in the den with Andre? And your sister? They're all in the den, okay. Okay, are you hurt at all? Okay, you're not hurt, okay.
It's vital to keep in mind that if Howard was indeed trying to protect his fiancée Amanda and her family, it could change the way we understand the events that unfolded. This detail becomes crucial as we move forward in the story. The police didn't waste any time and hurried to the Engelhart family's house in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, right after the 911 call. They knew it could be a challenging situation, but nothing could have prepared them for the shocking scene that awaited them. The whole house was a scene of unimaginable horror, with blood splattered everywhere. As they entered, they found Laura and Shelley's lifeless bodies on the floor, covered in blood, and Amanda and Howard were still in a state of shock. When Amanda saw the police, she couldn't hold back her tears and pleaded with them to help. However, the ambulance was still on its way. The police asked if anyone else in the family was hurt or deceased. In response, Amanda led them to the kitchen, where they found 2 more family members, her father Alan and grandmother Marlene, who had tragically lost their lives. Also, their lifeless bodies were in strange positions, as Marlene was found leaning against the kitchen cabinets in an unusual position, and Alan was on the floor with his left leg stuck between the lower cabinet. Both of them clearly had stab wounds on their chests, which were aimed right at their hearts. In the kitchen, there were also several knives. Some of them were in the sink, and one was covered in blood on the floor. But what really caught the police's attention were the marks on Amanda and Shelley's hands. These marks looked like they'd been tied up with a rope. This puzzled the investigators because it's not common for one person, like Laura, to tie up 2 others. Usually, when someone's in a separate situation, they'd fight back, and it was odd that Laura could have overpowered 2 women. So it actually raised questions about the events that unfolded some moments ago, that if Howard was indeed trying to protect everyone, why wasn't he there when Laura attacked them? Why didn't he hear their cries for help? As the ambulance arrived, the police acted swiftly, rushing Laura and Shelley to the hospital since they were the only ones still alive, holding on to a chance for their lives. But it was really tragic that 18-year-old Laura didn't make it to the hospital and succumbed to her extensive stab wounds. Shelley, on the other hand, faced a tough battle by undergoing an intense surgery in an effort to save her life. Meanwhile, the investigation inside the house was in full swing, with the police carefully examining every corner. However, things took a significant turn when an investigator from the Illinois Medical Examiner's Office arrived. When this expert looked at Alan and Marlene's bodies, he made a startling discovery. Both had deep stab wounds on their chests, which typically require a lot of force to inflict. But here's where it gets intriguing. Laura, who is smaller in stature, would have found it exceptionally challenging to use that much force. What made it even more perplexing was that there weren't any other marks on their bodies, indicating that they might have been tied up or possibly initially subdued by being hit with an object before being stabbed. So, if Alan and Marlene were not tied up or unconscious when the attack happened, then in such a situation, it's normal for them to try to defend themselves. And it was impossible for Laura to stab them back in that situation. And that's where it's important to consider, because even the autopsy reports confirm that Alan and Marlene were attacked after Laura. This meant that there's a confrontation between Howard and Laura that happened before the attack on Alan and Marlene. So definitely, Laura got stabbed before the unfortunate events involving Alan and Marlene. Now, the police had a clear understanding that after Laura had been stabbed, it would have been practically impossible for her to carry out an attack. So the big question that was boggling the investigators' minds was, if Laura wasn't the one who harmed Alan and Marlene, then who was responsible? According to Howard's 911 call, he mentioned that Laura was stabbing everyone. This raised doubts about why Howard didn't try to protect the others if it wasn't Laura. It seemed there must have been someone else in the house with Howard and Amanda who'd witnessed the entire horrifying event. With all these questions swirling in their minds, the police decided to invite the only survivors at that moment, Howard and Amanda, to the police station for questioning. At this point, there was a growing suspicion that Howard and Amanda might be hiding something important, a critical truth behind the attack. And it was actually during the interview with Amanda when the shocking truth finally emerged and the police got to know what really happened in the Engelhart house that morning. She revealed that in the early morning, around 5:10 a.m., she and Howard returned back home from a late-night party. But things took a dramatic turn when Howard, out of nowhere, began yelling at Amanda. His anger flared up, and a highly intense and aggressive argument erupted between them. What triggered this heated argument was Howard's belief that Amanda was being unfaithful to him. This was a suspicion he'd harbored before, but on this particular morning, it reached a whole new level. To prevent their argument from escalating further, Amanda decided to go to her room for some rest. However, her peaceful sleep was abruptly shattered by the sound of someone wielding a knife. This was a chilling and terrifying moment. She frantically tried to reach Howard, calling out to him repeatedly, but there was no response. Amanda's distressed voice woke her mother, Shelley, who'd been asleep in her room. She rushed to Amanda's side, being deeply concerned and with a growing sense of what would have happened. In an unexpected twist, Howard suddenly ordered both Amanda and Shelley to come into the family's den. Confusion and fear filled the air as they cautiously made their way towards the den. But to their shock, Howard turned the tables on them. He positioned them back to back and proceeded to tie them up, holding them as hostages. The situation resembled a scene from a horror movie, and it was about to get even worse. Their screams reached Laura, who rushed downstairs from her room. She was horrified to see her sister and mother tied up, but Howard, in a frantic attempt to control the situation, moved to tie up Laura as well. But Laura wasn't about to become a helpless victim. She summoned every ounce of courage and strength, wresting the knife from Howard's grasp. In a bold but risky move, Laura used the knife to defend herself, ultimately stabbing Howard in his arm. Unfortunately, Laura's brave attempt only fueled Howard's anger. This man, who had long been grappling with mental health issues, remained in control of the knife. What followed next was a horrifying scene as Howard repeatedly stabbed both Laura and Shelley, and their agonizing screams echoed through the family home. The cries for help woke up Marlene, the 73-year-old grandmother and the eldest member of the Engelhart family. She rushed downstairs to check on Shelley and her granddaughters, but Howard was waiting for his next victim. He easily overpowered Marlene, and this defenseless woman didn't even get a chance to protect herself. In a cruel and swift attack, Howard stabbed her multiple times in the chest, particularly targeting her heart, and left her lifeless in the kitchen. Now, during this terrifying ordeal, Amanda remained tied up and was forced to watch helplessly as Howard took the lives of her family members. Their desperate cries and screams filled the air, creating a deeply distressing and unsettling atmosphere. It was these heart-wrenching sounds that finally woke the last member of the family, 57-year-old Alan Engelhart, the father of Amanda and Laura, from his sleep. When Alan descended the stairs, a chilling shiver ran down his spine. What he encountered was a nightmare beyond imagination. The sight of blood everywhere, with Laura and Shelley lying on the floor, covered in blood and fighting for their lives, was something no father or husband could ever fathom in their worst dreams. As Alan faced Howard, a violent and aggressive confrontation ensued, and Alan, driven by the fierce desire to protect his family, fought back with all his strength. But perhaps destiny wasn't on his side that morning. Howard ruthlessly attacked Alan, using the same violent method he had on Marlene, and left him in the kitchen, fighting for his life. Now, if you remember, Amanda said on the 911 call that all the attacks were done by Laura, but the truth was that she actually wanted to protect her husband, Howard. But now she had no other way left. With 2 horrific murders and a savage assault on Laura and Shelley, Howard paced between the den and kitchen, leaving a gruesome trail of blood in his wake. The Englehart home had now been transformed into a nightmarish crime scene. Howard's next move was to rip the house phone from the wall, making sure that none of the surviving family members could call for help. It took almost an hour after this terrible incident for Howard to finally calm down. It was then that the enormity of what he'd done began to sink in. Overcome with guilt and terror, he broke down in tears and, surrounded by the gruesome aftermath of his actions, he couldn't believe that he'd taken the lives of the family members who had loved him deeply. In a moment of desperation, or perhaps seeing the situation in a different light, he lay beside the bloodied and injured Laura, seeking her forgiveness. He expressed his deep regret, saying he couldn't understand how he'd turned into a monster, and that he could never forgive himself for what he'd done. In a voice that trembled with pain, Laura, who was still holding on to life, forgave Howard. Now, after receiving Laura's forgiveness, Howard moved swiftly to untie Amanda, who'd been crying throughout the incident. He asked her to make the crucial 911 call to get the ambulance for the surviving family members who were in desperate need of help. They anxiously waited until the ambulance arrived at the scene, and Laura and Shelley were the first to be rushed to the hospital. In a miraculous turn of events, Shelley managed to survive her stab wounds and eventually made a full recovery. In just a matter of hours, Howard had taken the lives of 3 people and attempted to kill another, leaving the Englehart family tree shattered and their lives changed forever. Now, there would be one question lingering in everyone's mind, that if Howard felt guilty for his actions, then why didn't he admit to the police on the 911 call, or when they arrived at the Englehart house? It's because Amanda asked Howard to stay silent. She was trying all from her side to conceal the truth, but nothing really happened in Howard's favor. As the news of this tragic attack and the reports of murder spread through the community, people began to discuss how the Englehart family had welcomed Howard as one of their own. Howard's early life had been anything but easy. He was taken from his own mother at the tender age of 6 when his 2 half-brothers were born. By the time he was 9, he was already showing signs of troubling aggression and anxiety. Howard's troubled journey continued, with incidents like a heated altercation at 15 and an arrest for assaulting a young girl in his neighborhood at 16, resulting in a juvenile offender conviction. He also had a history of drug use, but despite this rocky past, as an adult, Howard was given a second chance at life. His upbringing was far from conventional, and his previous behavior wasn't exemplary. Yet the Englehart family extended their love and support and offered him a real chance to experience the warmth of a loving home. Howard also used to attend the church with the Englehart family and became an active member of their community, and even lived in their family home. Howard and Amanda also had a child together, but thankfully their little daughter wasn't there when the tragic murders occurred. Amanda's brother Jeff also wasn't home during that dreadful moment, as he'd spent the night at a friend's house. Howard was finally arrested on the very same day as the tragic attack on April 17, 2009, facing charges of first-degree murder and attempted murder. The Englehart family, who appeared to be the embodiment of a loving and wholesome American family, left everyone in shock. What could have possibly driven Howard, who once loved them deeply, to carry out such a violent assault? Was it Amanda's loyalty that pushed him to commit these unforgivable crimes? While the instability in their relationship seemed rooted in Howard's deep-seated insecurities, the violence he unleashed on the Englehart family held a much darker tale. For years, many questions swirled in people's minds about this horrific incident, but the answers would only emerge after a long and agonizing wait of 5 years in 2014. Until then, Howard had been in police custody, and in June 2014, he finally faced trial in the Rolling Meadows courtroom. During the trial, Howard spent 3 hours testifying in his own defense, but the reason he gave for the horrifying attack was deeply disturbing. He claimed that it wasn't his own will that drove him to use the knife as a weapon against 5 innocent people. Instead, he said it was demons who had taken control of him. Howard explained that he'd heard voices in his head the entire time, commanding him to commit these terrible acts. He couldn't silence these loud, intrusive thoughts that had twisted his thinking and perception during the murders. Even when he tied up his fiancée, Amanda Englehart, and her mother, Shelley Englehart, He told them he was going to torture and kill their family right before their eyes. Howard's lawyer, public defender Deanna Binstock, pleaded for leniency, citing Howard's long history of mental illness as a factor to be considered. She sought a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity. However, their request was met with a denial from the judge, as Assistant State's Attorney Maria McCarthy argued for the maximum sentence, stating that Howard was fully aware of the seriousness of his actions. The fact that he tied up the family members before the killings indicated that his chilling actions were premeditated. In the end, Howard was found guilty, but surprisingly, he managed to avoid the death penalty. Instead, he received a severe sentence of 3 life terms in prison, plus an additional 60 years. This meant that Howard would spend the rest of his life behind bars. As Cook County Judge Ellen Mandeltor delivered the sentence, Howard remained stoic and showed no emotion. It was a moment that marked the beginning of Howard's lifetime behind bars, closing a chapter of pain and suffering for all involved. Howard's mother, Constance Taylor, handed a written note after the hearing. In it, she expressed her deep remorse, saying, "I would like to apologize to the Engelhart family for the pain that my son has caused. The family will remain in my prayers. We all have suffered through this trying time." For the surviving members of the Engelhart family, the closure was bittersweet. They had seen the killer of their loved ones brought to justice, a man they had once welcomed into their family with open hearts. Shelley Engelhart expressed their resilience, saying, "I stand here now to let you know that good has triumphed over evil once more. The wounds and pain you've inflicted on us have not weakened our family and will not define our future." Laura's brother, Jeff Engelhart, who had become a reporter for the Northwest Herald in Crystal Lake, held hope that Howard might change for the better during his time in prison. He shared, "I don't want to hate you. I want you to try hard every day to think about the people you killed and who they were." Finally, Shelley and her daughter Amanda made the courageous choice to return to their Hoffman Estates home. The gruesome nature of these murders is undeniably chilling, and it serves as a sobering reminder to reflect on how well we truly know the people we welcome into our lives. The Engelhart family's decision to embrace a man with a troubled past was an act of kindness, but tragically, it came at a high cost. It's a poignant lesson that reminds us of the complexities of human nature and the unforeseen consequences of our choices.
A lot of emotions, just unbelievable relief. It's been a long time, and really have to thank the state's attorneys for the job they did. It was incredible, but just a lot of relief. I guess in that sense, the time sort of helped. It wasn't anything I don't think we didn't expect them to try. Obviously, we think the jury absolutely got it right, and I'm thankful for that as well. But we had been prepared that that's what they would probably attempt.
What are your thoughts on this case? Was it truly Howard's doing, or could there be a sinister truth where demonic entities compel them to commit these heinous acts? Is Amanda equally responsible in the murders as Howard by trying to conceal the truth? We'd love to hear from you. If there's a case you'd like us to cover, don't hesitate to drop your recommendations in the comment section below. In April 1990, a 20-year-old woman named Sharon Marshall was discovered dead on the side of a highway in Oklahoma City, the capital of the U.S. state of Oklahoma, known for its cowboy culture and oil fields. The woman who was found had visible bruises and a brain injury. She was quickly taken to a hospital, but unfortunately passed away there. Since her groceries were found scattered near her, the police concluded that she'd likely been hit by a vehicle while walking from a convenience store to the motel where she was staying. However, further examination revealed that the injury to the back of Sharon's head did not match the typical injuries from a car accident. As they looked more closely into the case, they discovered that Sharon was just 20 years old at the time of her tragic death. She had a 2-year-old son named Michael. On the fateful day when she was presumably struck by a hit-and-run driver, Sharon had gone out to purchase baby supplies. She was also married to a man named Franklin Delano Floyd, who was over 25 years older than her. The day after Sharon was found injured, Floyd arrived at the hospital and said he'd fallen asleep at the motel while Sharon went to get groceries. The police started to suspect him, but they couldn't link him to the crime. To uncover more about Sharon and Floyd's story and unravel the truth, law enforcement initiated a thorough investigation into their relationship and the events leading up to that fateful day. Sharon, originally born as Suzanne Marie Savakis, came into the world on September 9, 1969. Her mother, Sandy Chipman, had 3 children from other marriages. So, apart from Sharon, who was the oldest, there were 2 daughters named Allison and Amy, and a son named Philip. In 1974, Floyd, who was then using the alias Brandon Williams, crossed paths with Sandy at a North Carolina truck stop. Before meeting Sandy, Floyd had a criminal history that included offenses such as kidnapping, armed robbery, assault, and various other crimes. After Floyd and Sandy met, they dated for a month and then got married. Following their marriage, Floyd persuaded Sandy to move with their 4 children to Dallas, Texas. A year later, in 1975, Sandy faced a 30-day jail sentence for writing bad checks. Upon her release, she returned home only to discover that the house was empty. Floyd had taken her children and disappeared. Sandy managed to locate her 2 middle daughters, Allison and Amy, who were in the care of a social services group run by a local church. Unfortunately, she never found her eldest child, Sharon, or her youngest child, Philip. When Sandy tried to report this as a kidnapping, local authorities informed her that, as their stepfather, Floyd had legal rights to take the children. Later that year, Floyd and Sharon resurfaced in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. At that time, Sharon was enrolled in school using the name Suzanne Davis. Floyd provided various conflicting explanations about how he'd come to have custody of her. In one version, he claimed to have rescued Sharon when her biological parents abandoned her. Unfortunately, as time went on, it would become evident that Floyd subjected Sharon to years of abuse, the full extent of which you'll soon learn. Sharon completed her high school education in Forest Park, Georgia in 1986. By this time, Floyd was using the name Warren Marshall. Sharon was known as an exceptionally bright student and even earned a scholarship to the Georgia Institute of Technology, where she had plans to study aerospace engineering. Sadly, she became pregnant by an unknown man, and Floyd prevented her from pursuing her college education. Eventually, she gave birth to a child who was later put up for adoption. Following this, Sharon and Floyd moved to Tampa, Florida. There, Sharon began working as an exotic dancer. In 1988, she gave birth to a son named Anthony Michael Hughes. In 1989, she and Floyd tied the knot in New Orleans using the name Tanya Tadlock and Clarence Hughes. After they got married, Floyd and Sharon settled in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sharon continued working as a dancer at a club. During this time, a fellow dancer named Karen Parsley urged Sharon to break free from Floyd's controlling grip. However, Sharon expressed fear that he'd harm her and her son if she attempted to leave. Floyd had even falsely claimed membership in the Fraternal Order of Police, despite not being an actual police officer, and had convinced Sharon that he had connections that could track her down. Despite these threats, by April 1990, Sharon had decided to run away with Kevin Brown, a college student with whom she was secretly involved in a relationship. She intended to take her son Michael with her. Unfortunately, not long after making this decision, Sharon met her tragic end. After Sharon's death, Floyd placed his son Michael in foster care and left the state. Michael's foster parents reported to the authorities that when he initially came to their home, he had limited muscle control, couldn't speak, and frequently exhibited hysterical behavior. However, with time, he made remarkable progress. In 1994, his foster parents initiated adoption proceedings to provide him with a permanent home. During the adoption process, they conducted a DNA test to confirm Michael's paternity. Surprisingly, it was revealed that Floyd was not Michael's biological father. Despite this revelation, Floyd tried to regain custody of Michael. However, due to his criminal history and the fact that he had no biological relation to the boy, his request was denied. Then, on September 12, 1994, Floyd took a shocking and drastic step. On that day, Michael was attending first grade at Indian Meridian Elementary School in Choctaw, Oklahoma. Floyd entered the school brandishing a gun and forced Principal James Davis to take him to Michael's classroom. Afterward, Floyd forced both Michael and Davis into his pickup truck. Subsequently, he left the principal, Davis, handcuffed to a tree in a wooded area and drove away with Michael. In November 1994, approximately 2 months later, Floyd was arrested in Louisville, Kentucky for kidnapping young Michael as well as his principal. At the time of his arrest, Michael was not with him. Floyd informed the authorities that Michael was alive and safe, but deliberately withheld the precise whereabouts of the boy or who was taking care of him. The situation grew even more perplexing as conflicting reports emerged. Some witnesses provided accounts of alleged confessions made by Floyd regarding Michael's death. These reports suggested that Floyd had told certain individuals that he drowned the child in a motel bathtub in Georgia shortly after the kidnapping. Another person claimed to have seen Floyd burying Michael's body in a cemetery. Now, back in 1989, Floyd and Sharon were under suspicion regarding the disappearance of a woman named Cheryl Ann Comesso. Cheryl happened to be a co-worker and friend of Sharon, and they both worked as dancers at the same club. What drew investigators' attention to Floyd and Sharon in this case was an incident at the club involving Cheryl. It all began when co-workers at the club witnessed a heated argument between Floyd and Cheryl. Floyd had accused Cheryl of reporting Sharon for misrepresenting her income, a move that led to Sharon losing her government benefits. This altercation took place outside the club where Sharon and Cheryl worked as exotic dancers, and a co-worker even reported that Floyd had punched Cheryl in the face. Cheryl was last seen alive during the first week of April 1989. She left her home with a packed bag and informed her family that she'd return the following week. However, her car was discovered at the St. Petersburg Clearwater Airport in Pinellas County, Florida. It had been parked there since April 7, 1989. Adding to the mystery, shortly after Cheryl's disappearance, Floyd and Sharon fled to Oklahoma, and their trailer home was deliberately set on fire and destroyed. The disappearance of Cheryl in 1989 remained a mystery until 1995, when a landscaper discovered her skeletal remains near Interstate 275 in Pinellas County, Florida. Initially, her identity was unknown, and she was listed as a Jane Doe. It took another year to identify her remains through dental records. An archaeologist examination revealed that she died as a result of a severe beating and 2 gunshot wounds to the head. In March 1995, a mechanic in Kansas made a startling discovery. He found a large envelope hidden between the truck bed and the top of the gas tank of a truck he'd recently bought at an auction. Inside the envelope were 97 photographs, many of which depicted a severely beaten and bound woman. The police tracked down the truck to Floyd, who'd stolen it in Oklahoma in September 1994, but had left it in Texas a month later. Investigators compared the photographs of the injured woman with Cheryl, as well as evidence found with Cheryl's remains. They noticed that the clothing in the photographs resembled Cheryl's, and a medical examiner compared the injuries seen in the pictures to the injuries on Cheryl's skull, finding them consistent. Moreover, several pictures featured furniture and belongings that were identified as belonging to Floyd. Based on this compelling photographic evidence found in the truck, Floyd was charged with Cheryl's murder in 1997. In the same truck, authorities discovered additional disturbing photographs. These photos depicted the long-term abuse of Sharon, beginning when she was just a young child. Among the images were explicit poses of Sharon at different ages, some as early as 4 years old, and others from her teenage years. In 2001, as Floyd awaited trial for Cheryl's murder, Judge Nancy Lay initially deemed him unfit to stand trial and requested that he undergo a more thorough mental evaluation. Floyd contested this evaluation, insisting that he was mentally capable. Several months later, the judge reversed her previous decision and ordered him to stand trial. In 2002, Floyd was eventually convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. Then, in September 2014, while he was on death row, Floyd confessed to the murder of Michael. He admitted to killing Michael on the same day of the kidnapping by shooting him twice in the back of the head. He further disclosed that he disposed of Michael's body on Interstate 35. Despite an ensuing search of the area, no results were obtained, and authorities suspected that wild hogs may have consumed Michael's remains. In 2019, a man stepped forward, believing he was Philip, one of the children Floyd had kidnapped from his then-wife Sandy back in 1975. DNA tests were conducted, confirming that he was indeed Philip. It turned out that Philip had been placed for adoption in North Carolina and was adopted by a couple named Mary and Bob Patterson. They changed his name to Stephen. On January 23, 2023, at the age of 79, Floyd passed away from natural causes while he was still on death row. Our next case leads us to Phoenix, Arizona, the capital and largest city in the state, with over 1.6 million residents. In 2006, a tragic event unfolded within its borders. But before we get there, let's begin in Knoxville, Tennessee, where Ryan Thomas Waller was born on February 12, 1988. When he was younger, he enjoyed playing the guitar. His father, Donald Thomas Waller, mentioned that Ryan had a talent for quickly picking up songs and rapping along with them. In 2006, after graduating from high school, 18-year-old Ryan was dating Heather Kwan. Heather was a 21-year-old college student at the time, and they made the decision to live together. To make this happen, they rented a house in Phoenix, Arizona, along with a third roommate named Alicia. It was December 25, 2006, and Ryan and his girlfriend Heather were enjoying a quiet evening together at home. Suddenly, there was a knock on their door, and since they weren't expecting their roommate Alicia, they were surprised by the unexpected interruption. Curious, Ryan decided to check who was at the door. However, when he opened it, he was confronted by two armed intruders who immediately held him at gunpoint. Ryan tried to close the door quickly, but he wasn't fast enough. The intruders then proceeded to shoot him twice in the head. Afterwards, the intruders entered the apartment and also fatally shot Heather. They proceeded to search the house, taking electronic devices and a guitar. Ryan's absence from the family Christmas dinner and his unresponsiveness to their calls alarmed his parents. They grew increasingly concerned and decided to call the police, requesting a wellness check on their son. The police arrived at midnight and, through a window, spotted a lifeless body. However, they chose not to enter and waited for hours to get a search warrant. During this wait, Alicia, the roommate, returned home. She went straight to her room without noticing anything unusual in the living room. It wasn't until the police came back and knocked on the door that she finally answered. During their search of the premises, the police made a shocking discovery. They found Heather's lifeless body, but incredibly, Ryan was still alive despite being shot in the head. Strangely, the police made the surprising decision to arrest Ryan, suspecting him of murder. They believed his facial gunshot wound was just a black eye, and they speculated that he and Heather had a violent argument that led to her death. The police treated the case as a domestic abuse incident gone terribly wrong. Ryan's behavior at the time added complexity to the situation. He appeared reluctant to cooperate with the police, claiming not to remember what had transpired and insisting on being allowed to sleep. These actions led to his detention and lengthy questioning by the police about the events of that fateful night. The situation took a troubling turn as the police did not initially believe Ryan, which resulted in a delay in getting him medical help.
No, look down, man. You in the eye with a revolver. You wouldn't be talking to me right now. How do you know? Because most likely you'd be dead. That's what I thought too, man. I really don't know. I can't believe this one. I can't believe it either. You're right. I've already heard the story. I can't believe it.
After being taken into custody, Ryan endured several hours inside patrol cars. The following morning, around 5 a.m., Ryan, still injured and in pain, was brought to the police station for questioning.
I just want to go to sleep. That's it. If you have a concussion, you don't need to sleep. That's what the doctors will say. I'll put your feet on the table like that. Come straight on the table.
Detective Paul Dalton led the interrogation. He started out by asking Ryan some basic questions. However, given Ryan's current state, Ryan wasn't able to process any answers to what he was being asked.
What's the highest grade you went through school? I don't know.